Back with a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss. Look who's starting it all off, it's Raven.
No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through! He's just gonna solidify everything from Mythos.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKT, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Inu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes the Nanoblade immediately to the back. Fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
And hello everybody, we are back with some more CGL Season 16 action. We're going to be going down to the Plat tier, giving some love to our Plat teams. We have the Tormenting Tentacles versus HMS Sabre. I'm Mott, joined by the wonderful Megalast, and we're here to cover this NA Plat tier match.
I love how you said NA, despite the fact that it's 3 in the afternoon. This is
No, I literally.
No, we've been forced across the pond, Mott, to the European Union. But hey, listen, EU, sometimes they can get down with it, as the kids say. So it should be a fun match here between these two squads. Regular week 2 match. We have to see how the teams are doing, stuff like that, and just how it's all going to shake out.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember the Tormenting Tentacles actually having played last season in season 15 in the Diamond tier. I think kind of just restructured their team and actually just decided to go for the Plat tier this time. And against Sabre, who I don't really recognize too much, but I do know the organization. So I'm excited to see exactly what they bring to the table, especially as we move into our starting map, that being Samoa for the week. A map you don't really see, again, really all that often if you really think about it. There are some really good plays that were made on it just in the past week with all the other stream matches, and I think just the kind of the meta around it has really shifted a lot towards like the Hazard and the Orissas of the world more often than not, and Divas as well. So really excited to see what these teams do bring on these 3 sub maps.
Yeah, and like you were saying with Samoa specifically, I feel like it's the most interesting of the COF maps because generally speaking, when you're looking at standard comps, it's one of the few control maps where you can play the same comp the whole way through. Rush is good on all 3 points. It's not something like a Lijiang or an Oasis where there's a dive point in there. You got to switch up your strategies and things like that. This is something that if people are comfortable, they can just keep it pushing the entire way through all 3 rounds. So adaptation is going to be the key here. These two teams are probably going to be trying to counter pick each other a little bit, and we'll have to see exactly what they try to cook up with these counter picks.
And also the bans as well, what they're cooking on that side of the world. We have a lot of just kind of variation in the bans as well, I would say, especially when it comes to control. Arguably also kind of falls in the same familiarity on Flashpoint as well when it comes to some of the bans that will be really pretty consistent between the 2 map modes. But as we go into control, as we see that the Tormenting Tentacles are banning first, you have a really big plethora of options. You can go for a little bit of a safer ban, I would say. Like, for example, a Sojourner would be a good safe ban, Genji would be a good safe ban, Hazard, Orisa, I think are just some really good solid starter bans before you really get into the nitty-gritty of what this team is good at and what we need to and what we need to start target banning in the subsequent maps.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head with some of those DPS predictions, but it seems as though it's not exactly right. It's going to be the Venture ban. Venture, definitely a lot of players have expressed some frustration. Maybe the Venture's gotten a little bit too strong. Me personally, I think that they are doing amazing, so I got no hate on Venture. But it seems as though the Tentacles at least have hate for this first map here. So now on the flip side of things, HMS Sabre are going to be able to ban, obviously not from that DPS category, like you were talking about, Mod, the Orisa or the Hazard. Both very prominent bans. If you don't have a tank player who's confident on one of those, or you just don't want to play into it, right? It's just annoying somebody who's going to live forever on the battlefield, take it out. But actually, no, it's going to be the Zarya ban instead here, which this could be HMS saying that we want to play the Orisa. Let's get rid of the direct counter. That way, the only way you're going to deal with it is in a flat-out Orisa mirror.
Absolutely. You know what I think it's so funny is that Zarya is coming back a little bit as a frontline tank, especially if you're coupling her with like a Reaper or a Genji. That's been really popular as of late in not even just our divisions, not even our tournament, but also in other tournaments and other avenues. So I do definitely see the Zarya ban, and this also opens up the Diva to be picked as well, which I think is also something really interesting because she's kind of come back in the limelight a little bit as a dive option.
Yeah, and so it's very interesting to see Zarya, again, be prominent once again here. And it was not really out of any buffs or anything. It was just people sort of saying, hey, listen, this hero's not as bad as we originally thought. People finally willing to expand past the bulky brawl tanks and give themselves another option. But as we head into our lineups here to see who exactly is going to be playing for both of these squads today, we're going to start with the Tormenting Tentacles. We have Astra and Cherry on that DPS line, Wolf on tank, and then Frog in Vinciri. I almost butchered that name, but hey, listen, that's why we have prod sheets, bringing up that support line.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see these guys come into this match, especially against the Sabres. Now let's go over to their starting lineups here. And of course, with these 5 starters, we have Hiccup, we have Shao, we have Scaramouche, we have Maddie 192, and Rokuro as well, coming up in this starting 5 lineup against the Tormenting Tentacles and into Samoa as well. You can kind of see Scaramouche already has that Hazard as a favorite hero, as well as Shao on the adventure. So I do kind of feel like we're going to see these kind of heroes, especially with how popular they've gone. They're definitely going to make a reappearance at some point in the subsequent maps in this first 3 series. Now, with our rosters lined up, with our teams ready to go, with the map already chosen, and the bans having been selected, again, I'm excited to see how they're going to tackle the 3 sub-maps of Volcano, of the beach, of the city center as well, and how differently that can be played, especially given the Venture and the Zarya bans.
Exactly, right? Having that difference, those things that can sort of switch up on you on a moment's notice, it will be interesting to see how we go through these 3 sub maps, of course. The biggest thing I'm going to be looking at is what these backlines end up on. Last week, NA Plat Division, they were doing some things where they were running Brawl without a speed character in the lineup, no speed character banned. So, you know, while I understand this is Plat and you can get away with certain strategies, don't make me look at that again. Pretty please. If you're gonna run an Orisa, give her somebody, a Juno, a Lucio, somebody to help her get those horse legs around the map as best as humanly possible. And of course, we are assuming that Orisa is coming out thanks to that Zarya ban.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of assuming the Versa will be coming out as well, especially if we go to something like Beach or something like City Center. I think both are very great maps for Orisa, even Volcano to an extent. But this is Plat tier, so a lot more freedom is typically played in the lower divisions, and we can see like Amalga come in, we can see Reinhardt, Vermont, we can see a lot of different heroes that can start that front line charge on that tank role, and then of course DPS are super flexible as well. Of course, no Venture, but that kind of is supplemented with something like Genji, like a Tracer. It looks like we are going to the beach first, starting things off very strongly with our teams in their spawn rooms. Again, waiting on the timer to go down so we can see exactly what's going to be the lineups here. And we are seeing the Brawl without a speed boost of some sort so far, Mega.
I mean, listen, there's that going on. You said we're going to Beach. This is definitely Volcano. Just gonna throw that one out there. But hey, you know, this is exactly what was run on the NA side of things. It was the Moira Kiriko, not the Reinhardt, I believe, but I mean, you do have this old school style with the Reinhardt May Cassidy, where they sort of roll around as a death ball together. I think the biggest hindrance to this composition is probably going to end up being Hiccup. If, you know, the Hanzo can find opportunities where that shield is not up for Wolf, then all it takes is one arrow to simply turn the fight in HMS's favor.
Oh, for sure. And you can really see that we have that May wall coming in, kind of disrupting that forward positioning from Sabre. But there we go. As you had predicted, Hiccup will be the first one to take down a opponent of Cherry on top, who is on this Cassidy. Sabre looking very good with all of their 5-man squad here up into this Reinhardt, who unfortunately, again, as we mentioned, does not really have a way to get in without supplementing that charge in. However, we do trade out Hiccup. We have Vinsiri getting rid of the Hanzo character, and the rest of the fight is still ongoing. We do see a lot of that pressure being put on from Cherry on top, who's now back from the spawn room, getting a beautiful clean shutdown onto Rukura as well. And as quick as the point was flipped for Sabre, there's even faster swap here for the Tentacles, as they also get to read the DMAG on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, there was just this sense of fear coming out from the side of HMS. They didn't want to collapse after getting the initial pick, which I feel like was a very foolish endeavor. You have a Diva and a Reaper, right? These are people who can sort of run things down, as it were. But now heading into this next fight, you're probably, again, going to have to see Hiccup be the one to step up here unless Scaramouche can really get in there with Zhao's help and find a pick that way.
Absolutely, crazy. Vinsiri already going very low on that end from the Tormenting Tentacles, but able to regain that stability for the team here. All 5 now diving in. Here comes Scaramouche onto the Cassidy. Very easy dive target. Rolls back into the team, and there's the pin. There's the DMAC. Forces the self-destruct to be expended, I believe. No, I'm just tripping. Just a regular old DMAC. No mech to be seen from Scaramouche, but trying to build up that remech as fast as humanly possible. Hiccup does have the Dragon Strike in the back pocket. Could use it to split open this point, is what I would say, unless Estrada Squid was able to get that secondary fire onto Hiccup, completely negating the Shimano brother from even proccing the Dragon Strike, continuing to keep this point in the favor of the Tormenting Tentacles, over 60% at this point.
Yeah, and like you're talking about with the Dragon Strike, there's actually a ton of ultimates coming online for both of these squads right now. So it's going to be a very hectic fight, right? The first thing I'm expecting to see come out is the Coalescence. That's sort of an ult you can just chuck in at any time, and Frog just being willing to get aggressive off of that could be a game changer for the Tentacles.
Oh, for sure. But these fights are going like one at a time. Really just no true reset space. So we're going right into the next engagement. Cherry on top, rolling into that Dragon Strike. There goes Wolf. There goes Vinsiri, and Frog going down after the fact. No ultimates online, or no ultimates haven't been expended from the Tormenting Tentacles. So despite them losing out the point and the overall fight, they have a lot of things working with them into this re-engagement.
Yeah, granted, you know, HMS does also have a pretty solid amount of tools here as well, but I definitely do favor what the Tentacles have in the bank right now because, you know, an Earth Shatter is just going to be more impactful than a Diva Bomb forever and always, right? Scaramouche more than likely to use this remake, but Hiccup starts the fight.
with an opening pick as well into the Strata Squid. A big one too. The Blizzard would be great on this initial point of Volcano, just kind of engulfing the entire space. And we're not going to go for a quick reset. In fact, Wolf is in there, going for the Shatter. It's huge. The Deadeye comes in from the behind. There's no Suzu to negate it, but there's no other option besides the Sound Barrier that does help supplement that survivability from Sabre. On top of that, we do see the self-destruct get committed here from Scaramouche. So 3 ultimates expended from Sabre. Hiccup building up another Dragon Strike, and we're pushing in to maybe or hopefully get one, not only a stagger but also the rush.
I mean, the fact that Tormenting Tentacles used anything there, right? They were down their May. There's no reason to attempt to fight that. And they just invest 3 ultimates that ultimately go by the wayside because of that, hasty investment. And so now, as you pointed out, Hiccup has another Dragon Strike ready to go for the approach.
They sure do, and you can already see Hiccup seeing this rotation coming. I do see a pause in the chat at the very least, but might have to wait a little bit. There we go, beautiful. We're gonna be seeing a quick little pause here coming in, and we're gonna go back to our beautiful faces and kind of talk about what could possibly happen on that rotation up from the high ground down towards the middle point or the center area of the objective. I'm scared of the Dragon Strike. They're already scouting out where they're going. I see the vision of that Dragon Strike just completely separating the front from the back.
Yeah, honestly, I was surprised that the Dragon Strike didn't get ripped already. I was like, the sonar revealed all 5 people were right there. They don't have a speed boost of any kind. Just throw the Dragon Strike at them. Best case scenario for them is they have to run away, back up, use tools like Suzu, and then, the rest of your team's like, okay, that's fine. We'll just wait for them on the other side of it, throw in some micro missiles, some shots from the Reaper. Something's going to go down. So, potentially some hesitation there. Not what you want to see from your Hanzo. You got to be a little bit more decisive.
I completely agree with you. At the very least, when it comes to the Plat tier, even the lower kind of the end of the Plat tier and below, it's that hesitation. It's that kind of overthinking of, will I waste my ultimate? Will this get 5? It doesn't really matter. As you mentioned, it's good to just kind of launch it out knowing all 5 are up on that high ground, up trying to start something, try to get something sneaky started there. And at the very least, the Dragon Strike will separate, your Reinhardt from your Kiriko or your Moira. And I don't want, if I'm Kiriko, I don't want to see my Ryan go up into Narnia, not really having me there to help with that engagement. And then with that separation, you can more often than not force your Kiriko to jump into the middle of the fight and easily pick her off that way. So a little bit of hesitation from Sabre, but I can always kind of chalk it up to maybe seeing the pause and being like, oh, what are we pausing for? Oh, I gotta back up. We gotta wait for a reset. But we are going for the back into the game here, thankfully, and we still have the Dragon Strike. This scouting arrow doesn't really quite find its mark. Here comes a pin onto the Diva and the subsequent Coalescence and the Blizzard here, Mega Blast. So everything's gonna be expended here. Frog does get shut down early on by Hiccup, but Strata Squid will always find that elimination onto the side of Hiccup. And with 98% given to the Tormenting Tentacles, I'm not quite sure there's gonna be a consistent regroup here. Just these the supports staying alive. Wait, able to find 2 eliminations though. Just the Kiriko and Mei staying alive as long as possible. What a stall here from Sabre.
Yeah, I mean, the stall, how long is it going to be able to go? And it seems like it's going to be long enough to get, reinforcements back in the fight here. Now Sabre's actually being able to turn things around with an entry pick.
Yeah, they for sure are going to be able to actually finding not 1, not 2, but 3 of those entry picks, forcing the swap over to the ball as well. Lots of pressure from the Hanzo Storm arrows from Hiccup will be kind of mitigating that health pool all the way down to half and then down to 0. Xiao comes in on the Reaper, 98% given to Sabre, and after the fact, there's gonna be absolutely 0 sort of touching or stalling from the Tormenting Tentacles, but still a very close match indeed.
Yeah, I mean, it realistically was extremely close between the 2 squads. Obviously, you can tell that from the score, the 100 to 99. But Sabre definitely had to fight that one back tooth and nail. They were originally down 99 to 16%, but Tormenting Tentacles, again, just a few slip-ups where they were committing at the wrong times, going in without members, and that's ultimately always going to cost you here. Now, as we head down to the town center, or city center, whichever one it is, town, city, same deal. We are going to see Tormented Tentacles try to switch things up here, keep the no-speed brawl, but they're going to have a Soldier 76 instead of the Cassidy here, probably presuming that they don't need to play against some heavy dive like a Tracer. So it's just going to be more consistent damage with the Soldier 76.
Oh, 100,000%, and really good just kind of flank routes and survivability and stability also for himself with that healing circle as well. But Cherry on top going down early. I mean, fortunately, can't really heal and escape through the throws of a Hiccup whatsoever. So once again, we're down a key player in this first fight. The pin comes in and negates all of the armor given to Scaramouche on that D.Va. But otherwise, without the rest of the team there to help facilitate this fight, the Tormenting Tentacles are only just standing ducks for Hiccup to start laying these arrows in and Xiao to help out in finishing off these eliminations here. What another really great start here for Sabre once more, really just showcasing really just their opening potential, especially from the side of Hiccup.
I mean, yeah, Hiccup is absolutely lighting it up right now. Hanzo, a heavily underrated character, and Tormented Tentacles are finally having to respond to this, right? Holding shield is not going to be the answer. So now Wolf heading over to the Orisa, trying to be a little bit more aggro, as well as a Bastion in tow here. So they're going to have amazing burst potential around corners and things like that. But once, these Q cooldowns, like the configuration artillery, are expended, Tormented Tentacles really are going to kind of be stuck in a little bit of a no man's land.
Speaking of, though, we do see a big competition swap here. The Bastion and the Orisa do make an appearance for the Tormenting Tentacles here, especially as the rotation was already kind of scouted out by Scaramouche extremely early on. They're forced into this kind of brawl position here. They do force the disengagement from Scaramouche, though, which is really, really good, and they can start somewhat finding out a way to open things up, but this nice long sideline definitely is going to be taken up by Hiccup, especially ripping open the Dragon Strike right in the entryway, once again separating poor Wolf away from the supports here. Vincere, she's going to be trying to back out, but it gets called out by Hiccup. Everyone else in the team is just a falling victim, like a domino effect against the Tormenting Tentacles. Sabre once again getting over 60% under their belt with a great ult economy to go with it.
Absolutely phenomenal, right? Just having to expend the Dragon Strike, like you talked about, now having every other tool online here. But thanks to this constant swaps, Tormenting Tentacles actually aren't building up to a whole heck of a lot. Sure, they have the Coalescence and now the Blizzard online as well. But realistically, once they get to the objective, or we could just die to a D.Va. I forgot we're in Plat.
No, just have the aggressive D.Va bomb like that and get 3, and then you have the subsequent late minute staggers onto Frog and Astra. That's big. You're at 92%. The touch here is gonna be really high energy and really just kind of overwhelming for the Tentacles.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly how you put it. And nobody ends up actually touching. Nobody can get there in time because of it. So HMS Sabre just takes map number 1.
Flying colors as well, really well done, really good synergy, really just good awareness of how to not only just kind of scouting out the rotations. Hiccup was really ever pressured out by anyone else, not by a Tracer, not by really a Genji, anything like that. This was beautiful, as always. A 3-piece here, 1 per roll with that D.Va bomb. Very well done from Scaramouche. But this also gives way to the Tormenting Tentacles to have the map pick and first ban foe, if, of course, they want to have it first, at the very least. But most teams want to ban first, so I want to see exactly what they're going to be targeting here in the next ban phase.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see if it could be something like the D.Va or the Hanzo that they saw come out. Also with map choice as well, they could potentially take us somewhere to mitigate those advantages. But again, Tormenting Tentacles, I come back to, you were playing a brawl comp with no speed in sight. Like the Reinhardt, the Orisa, it doesn't matter which tank you play, they're slow. They can't get anywhere. They can't close the distance on this Hanzo that's tearing your team to shreds without some sort of speed, without some sort of way to be able to initiate. So I feel like that's going to be the biggest adjustment, is either Tormenting Tentacles have to add that speed character in or go somewhere where they can play that distance.
I have to agree with you, definitely. I really do feel like even if you don't want to play a Lucio or a Juno, you at least can have like a Symmetra that can help teleport your Rhine around the map and subsequently the rest of the team around the map without really utilizing the charge resources. Speed Suzu, if you want to count that as a resource, not really. You need a brawl. You need a little speed. You need a little Lucio, a little Juno, anything like that would really help them, I think, a lot in this matchup against Sabre. But again, the map pool is very open. Map and modes are completely open to the loser's pick, so we can go somewhere to like a push, maybe to a flashpoint as well. If they want to slow it down and maybe go something more like a payload map, like an escort, for example, or a hybrid. I mean, they're playing brawl. I wouldn't be surprised if they want to go towards a King's Row, something like that, because the other maps in the hybrid pool are very I would say beneficial to Sabre's composition. There's Dorado. I'm not Dorado. I'm lying to you. There's Blizzard World. There's Hollywood and Paraíso. So I don't want to play on those. I'm playing into like a Diva and a Reaper comp. So I do kind of think Mimi King's Row might be the choice from Tormenting Tentacles.
I was gonna say, Dorado becoming a hybrid map might be the end of days for some players.
Ooh, I was like, I'm a liar.
Yeah, like imagine just you change Dorado so you have to attack the fountain and you like that's your first point and then you move the payload from there. Oh gosh, it would be hell on earth for everybody involved. But thankfully that's not the reality we live in. But the lovely voice in the skies, aka Headrimmer, has told us that we are heading over to Colosseo. So push for the second map here. Interesting pick. There are, sightlines you can play around. That way you're not in the Hanzo's LOS 24/7. But this isn't necessarily something you need a speed character on, right? This is a map that theoretically you can slow down. So this kind of checks all the boxes Tormenting Tentacles really need right now.
Colosseo is one of those maps where I'm like, this is great. I do completely agree with you. I think that there are some areas of Colosseo where you don't have to really be a victim of the Hanzo, but then you roll out the first exact point on Colosseo is this long sightline that will absolutely benefit on Hanzo. Now, this is given the idea that maybe they do ban out Hanzo here and kind of mitigate that first engagement where it's super long sightlines that will definitely kind of give way to these Storm Arrows and the Scouting Arrow from the Hanzo. In the meantime, as we go over to the ban phase, I don't know. Hanzo can be a good one. We have tanks as well. Maybe Diva could also be a solid one. But I do think, the Brawl of Larissa, especially with Tormenting Tentacles kind of falling back on the Orisa very later in Samoa, I think we might just see Orisa be a first choice instead of running it down on Reinhardt. Either way, ban screen is here. We're going to exactly see where the Tormenting Tentacles are going to take us through this lovely ban phase.
Yeah, very interesting. Again, thinking back to that first set of bans, right? The Zarya was gone, but we just did not see a lot of Orisa from either team until the very end there when it was kind of a too little too late situation. So, kind of maybe a head scratcher on that one. But now, whole new set of bans, like you said, there's tons of different ways that they could go about this. This is going to randomly be like a mercy ban or something. Knowing the predictability here, but nope, it is actually the Diva. They've decided they do not want to get clipped with a 3K bomb again, and honestly, I don't blame them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the 3K bomb was kind of crazy, and it happens to the best of us, methinks. Now that Sabre have the, with no Diva to be seen here, we can go towards a damage or a support ban. I am kind of leaning towards maybe banning out maybe the Moira, kind of inhibiting that backline a little bit from the side of the Tentacles, or Kiriko. It kind of just seemed like the backline was very hell-bent on sticking with these two as a consistent backline, and knowing that neither of them, at the very least, are playing a Juno or Lucio, might not even be worth really banning out either of those options. But there's always the Bastion pick as well, since we did see that as a potential DPS opportunity or option for the Tormenting Tentacles. But as the ban phase does come down to the last 10 seconds, the roster is big. Lots of things can happen here. I do think that Sabre are working with a lot of confidence. I do think that Sabre are working with a lot of confidence going into this. In fact, Sabre really thinking hard, since we're really taking all 2 minutes of the ban phase to pick where we want to go next.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the rulebook in. They're banning. Did anybody play Genji on the first map?
Nope.
Am I crazy?
Nope.
Why? Mont, you got it. You know what? You got it. I'm not gonna. If I speak, I am in big trouble. If I speak, I am in big trouble.
If I speak, I'm going to jail. Oh, I mean the Genji ban is a ban. I don't know. I just feel like with Genji being banned out, it just kind of means, don't really want to play against him. He's annoying. That's what I would think. That's what I would ban him for. I think Genji's annoying. But we do have some subs coming in. We're not real subs. We're getting some role swaps around the block here. We're going to be seeing Vincere moving herself from that support role over to the DPS role. And now we also have Charming Zed Charming Zed coming into the support role, I'm assuming. Yeah. They have 3 DPSs. Don't know how that works. In all seriousness, Frog sticking themselves still with that support role, and no swaps coming in from Sabre either, just sticking with their main 5 rosters.
I mean, for Sabre, it makes sense. Obviously, if it's not broke, don't fix it, sort of deal. Don't worry, that's just our producer changing over to the Baptiste in real time. That way, Charming is on the correct role. But yeah, I mean, Vincere swapped over to DPS. I don't know exactly what this could spell out. I don't know if necessarily it was a DPS issue. You know, looking at their team sheet, maybe they just didn't want a Canadian player in. Maybe they were tired of Cherry on Top just for being Canadian. So they just said, you know what, get out of here. We're just going to have the rest of us. I'm just kind of speculating and throwing spitballs at the wall here because I don't really know.
Well, if you don't know, as the analyst, I definitely don't know because I just be yapping about the game. You know, I don't know. You know, maybe Vincere can bring out something that really maybe helps things work out a little bit better. I don't exactly know. Especially as we go into something like Colosseo. I do like that we do have Estrada with a favorite of the Symmetra, and I would love to see the Symmetra come through and really help Wolf walk around the map a little bit easier. I do think one of the biggest things was just the lack of a speed boost or lack of kind of teleportation or movement ability besides charge would help Tormenting Tentacles a little bit here. So with that being said, we're into Colosseo. We're getting things started here on the second map in this first Th3 series. 1 up for Sabre, looking very good as the countdown ticks down past 5 seconds. And we're going to exactly see, without D.Va, without Genji, what we're going to run from these players. Oh! It's Ball?
It's okay. Something has to change, right? Surely we're not running like a full dive comp again without a speed character and a Mei. Like, surely we're not walking out of spawn on this, right? Come on, please.
I think we are.
Pretty please. Why? There's no
2 seconds?
synergy with the Mei and the rest of this comp. A pause has been called for. A pause has been called for because why not? Why not pause the series? Mod, I can't wait to cast this game at 3 a.m. with you. We'll be here. It's great.
It's really cool. I have to cook for a beach party tomorrow. Like, oh, okay. There's some small tech issues happening. It is what it is. You know, allegedly it's a mic issue. I've been there where I'm like, guys, my headphones died. I can't talk to you. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared. I'm gonna call lessons here and we're gonna call it a day. I've been there for sure. But lineup's looking like the Moira comes back. I see Wu Yang though, which is really interesting to see. His synergy with most of the cast I think is pretty substantial. But with Moira, again, you don't really have that util. You have a high healing output, great with Moira Orb, Coalescence, you have the tidal wave from Wu Yang, but where's the speediness? Where's the let's go? Not really there.
Yeah, it's lacking in speed. The Wu Yang Moira is an incredible amount of damage potential for the backline, so they can get a little bit more proactive, a little bit more involved. And I mean, I guess realistically, the only person that would need the speed is the Mei. So I'm not saying it's fine, but it's like sure. But you're running Sombra Mei as your DPS. Like, the damage output is going to be incredibly low unless Mei is hitting icicles like it's, you know, the 4th of July or something. Don't really know how that analogy works. It doesn't really connect, but we're just going to roll with it. And overall, like, again, the comp, it feels like it's lacking in a few different fronts that just a hero swap or two could marginally fix.
Yeah, especially as we did see Sabre swap everything from the ball and everything to like a Ramatra more brawl composition with the Lucio. I think with the Lucio Kiriko, it was pretty fast, so I didn't get to see before our pause. But thankfully, speaking of pausing, we're going to be unpausing, finally going back into our match and seeing exactly how these comps can roll into each other, literally with Ball still being a favorite here from Wolf and also Sabre. Yeah, just going on with with Shao on Venture. We have Hiccup back on his Hanzo, Scaramouche on Ramatra, a not really popular character anymore post-patch.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, when a character gets nerfed like 5 different times in one patch, that kind of can put a damper on things. But like you talked about, Hiccup is using that long sight line with the Hanzo to try to really be a disrupting presence on the battlefield.
Oh wait, hold on, but the virus comes in from Vincere, goes for the hack, but thankfully the Suzu does come in time for Roku to stay alive, but then here's a subsequent dive onto the Kiriko. Cannot stay alive any longer, especially against the throws of a ball and a Sombra on my back line. Now everyone's looking at this at the Hanzo, who is the next victim of choice. Hiccup, oh, going so low. Mega Mini Pack has been stolen away from the Hanzo player, and it's a couple of these sprays from the primary fire of Sombra does help connect these eliminations together. And just like that, 2 down for Sabre. Backing up immediately is the tank, and of course subsequent DPS and supports. Otherwise, we are seeing Vincere really go for some nice setups. This might be able to work, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly can work, or it's starting to work here at the start. Constantly using the dive between the Sombra and the Wrecking Ball to put these people under pressure. It's exactly what you need to do. Now the question is, how do you remove the Ramatra from the equation as you're seeing Scaramouche be a menace on the card?
Yeah, you're right. Scaramouche is just kind of helping, or at least without the help of Wolf in the fray to help the team a little bit. Everyone else kind of got rolled over by Scaramouche, and just like that, Wolf is also unfortunately kind of staggering himself out a little bit there. Could get the Mega Pack, does find it, in fact, and I think saw long enough for our team to come back from the I feel like they're on the opposite side, actually. Wow, we're really separate, but we can kind of look at this venture, forcing out the burrow early on, and now we can see the Sabre are walking up incredibly far, finding Charming Zed immediately with the Storm Arrows from the Hanzo, but Hiccup does get the reversal, or at least Vincere finds the revenge onto Hiccup, and now there's a 4v4 on the point here, but the EMP is big, helps find a lot of hack potential onto Scaramouche, Rokuro, and Maddie. Sabre does get used to help supplement the rest of this fight, especially in the face of this Tectonic Shock, as we are seeing Shao try to find a target. Unfortunately, will be caught up by the Moira from Frog. Mind you, Frog on the point, trying to stay alive and stabilize for themselves, but without the rest of their team and without really any sort of self-survivability against Maddie, it's just a messy fight against the Tormenting Tentacles.
Yeah, very messy, chaotic fight. That's certainly a way to put it here. But now Sabre finally back in control. And there's a lot of times that we're seeing this Sombra Vincere just get a little bit too far in there, right? Like whenever the decode comes through, yes, there's some solid damage like that good peck that you're seeing under Rokuro. But, you know, a lot of times the Sombra is barely getting away with 1 HP.
Okay, speaking of teleport, Vincere backs out. Mind you, bot is still moving really easily. I mean, it feels like there's a Dragon Strike happening. Okay, here comes the Dragon Strike, finds nothing. Vincere once again finding Hiccup in the engagements, and that's really the only avenue that we're losing out on is from Sabre's constantly being down Hiccup, but the Annihilation does get procced here. The wall is very much not going to be helping out Astra whatsoever, as of course Scaramouche just kind of walks all over the Mei, forcing out that rotation, and now again really splitting up the opposition here of the Tormenting Tentacles. We see the swap over to Mercy, so we have the Mercy more at backline. Mines will be committed onto the objective itself, but Frog is kind of forced to use the Fade early on. We have this Mercy who's only able to do solo healing. Frog is going down, so you're really just a victim of just one player giving these heals out. Rokuro goes down, so we trade off the supports, and the Blizzard is also here, and the EMP. Whoa, we are stacking everything to get rid of Scaramouche.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. You're going to have to stack everything, right? While we were talking about Ramatra getting some nerfs, you know, it's still a very high HP tank with an ability that just adds, you know, 300 armor to the character, right? So it is going to take a lot to bring the tank down in these situations. And like we were talking about, the Mei Sombra combo, while you're good at executing backline targets, these squishier people, you're not going to be able to do that as effectively against these high HP targets.
You're right, especially as we have now built up this sound barrier and the Tectonic Shock. Rokuro finds the elimination onto Vincere, calling her out without that teleport, at least in time to stay alive in that engagement. There goes Hiccup also on this Cassidy, finding Wolf, really just kind of being the counter to this Sombra and this ball composition here. And of course, we're going to finish things out with a very strong shock from Shao. And like that, boom, you have a composition that really just completely counters what Tentacles is going for.
Yeah. And now, like you said, it's just a kind of a perfect counter. That's one of the great things that Venture can provide to these situations, is just being able to disrupt and shut down the Wrecking Ball. And finally, Wolf has had enough here. It's going to be the swap over to the Orisa. But because of that swap, as you just saw for Vincere, that's going to be happening more and more. The Sombra now no longer has anybody to dive or go in with. It's just going to be sort of isolated in a lone gameplay for Vincere.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel like Vinsiri has now kind of been left out in these comp swaps here. I mean, she is halfway to an EMP, which could be the saving grace, especially in the face of the sound barrier and the continued rush and the annihilation. So 3 big ultimates here. Definitely going to be the fight win for Sabre on this bridge phase of Coliseo, finding everybody, losing out on Hiccup. We are going to be staggering out the Mercy a tiny bit here from the side of Char, and there they go down, Charming down for the count, and we're walking in with a 116-meter lead here. What else can Tormenting Tentacles do?
I mean, they have the Blizzard coming into this next fight, like you talked about, getting close to that EMP as well, and HMS Sabre definitely just dumped the bank on that previous fight, but hey, you got 130 meters out of it.
Oh, okay, here's the sorry, not Annihilation. The Nemesis form in the Blizzard mode, giving Scaramouche a little bit of a lease on life, just a tiny bit, and the Suzu subsequently also helps out. But what a great spear from Wolf. We hear the Deadeye go off onto Hiccup from the left side staircase. Does get countered out by the Javelin spin. Great awareness from Wolf at the same time. And there it is, the EMP that should be the maker of this fight in the favor of Sabre. Finally giving them a little bit of a break, especially as we are now nearing almost under 3 minutes. And the late stagger onto Rokuro even better, as Vinsiri does get revived, so all 5 members are back in the fray for the Tormenting Tentacles to continue moving this bot.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, right? Scaramouche was gone. You won that fight. I don't know if you necessarily needed that EMP. Could have been something you held on to for a rainy day. But regardless, HMS Sabre are going to all get the forward spawns here before the bot is back in the center. So now Tormenting Tentacles up against it once again here. Probably going to have to invest this Terra Surge from Wolf and possibly combo it with some just steady damage from somebody to make sure an elimination comes through.
You're right. Ooh, I love that we have the Coalescence also online here, especially in this nice long sight line. But here comes the pause. Astra! No! Astra has been taken away from our loving graces. We're going to go back to the casters really quickly here. But as I was saying, you know, you saw the spinning in, and it's like the most telegraphed Terror Surge you're ever going to see. How are Sabre going to respond to it?
I was literally about to say, like, I don't think you could have telegraphed I am going to Terra Surge more in your life. You, like, and again, that was the fight plan. Ultimately, it's not that bad of a thing to telegraph it because, you know, it is what it is. But the W keying Orisa with Javelin Spin, not looking at anyone, like, the amount of red flags that should be going off for any and everyone. Hopefully there's a well-timed Suzu from Rokuro. That's going to sort of have to be the saving grace in this situation to get people out of this Terra Surge. Because I believe it was going to be well-positioned. At least the Ramatra and Cassidy both going to get caught up in it, potentially even more depending on the other positioning. But untimely DC. Unfortunate.
Would have been a haha if we didn't accidentally. There is a Wi-Fi issue I know happening for Astra, trying their best to stay alive in these engagements. But either way, very, very telegraphed. But now you have time to respond to it in this pause. You're like, okay, they're literally about to walk in with Terror Surge. I see it in their eyes. I see it from the team. I see what's going to go on. And you're right, there has to be a really good Suzu, a really good roll away from Hiccup. There has to be a Nemesis form. I think they are actually in Nemesis form as we speak. So hopefully these little factors can help mitigate what could be a colossal effect from the Terror Surge, especially as you charge up higher and higher. But also, what's the response after that? There's a Coalescence in the back pocket, I do know, from Frog, and they could just kind of continue that assault. Let's say they get out of the Terror Surge. Boom. Oh, we're getting the game. Okay, we're getting right back in the game. We're ready to go. There's the Terror Surge, finds 3. And the Coalescence comes in after the fact, and we are charging it to 500%. And there goes Hiccup with the virus at the end of the day. But Rokuro finds the trade-off, a tank for a DPS. I mean, it's a trade take-off any day of the week. Now it comes down to the rest of the team just kind of out fundamentaling and out mechanicing the other. There goes Charming, taken down by Scaramouche. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a quick reset, taking away that forward spawn. And now just kind of making sure to get the rest of these eliminations out of the way.
Yeah, and now, you know, like you talked about, this could actually be potentially a push for the end of the map here, but already you're seeing Tormenting Tentacles try to re-engage to stop the forward spawns from being re-triggered.
Oh, hello, hack on the back line. Vincere looking at this Kiriko. Oh, narrowly surviving it. What a great response. Even better, the revenge from Matt to keep up his fellow flex support. And now here comes the Terror Surge, not Terror Surge, excuse me, the Tectonic Shock as well. Trying to interrupt this res does not come into play as the Valk from Charming does get a little bit of that extra little bit of freedom of movement to get that res out of the way. Even more so, the EMP being procced here is massive. But not going to be good enough. Losing out Maddie, but losing out the rest of your members of the side of Tormenting Tentacles. It's just Wolf now facing the complete powerhouse of the Annihilation, pretty much all by themselves, and really Charming trying to back out. Could make it. Oh, no, cannot. Last one to go down, big stagger against the Tormenting Tentacles.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a stagger and a half to be sure here, considering how much was invested. It was absolutely necessary here, but it could actually be a recontest on the cart with Scaramouche going down, and yeah, trades are coming through.
A little bit of trades, yeah. There goes Fraud, there goes Shao, there goes Vincere. We are walking into this dead eye with confidence, and I love it from Wolf. Even more so, the rest of the team are able to follow up on the Cassidy here. But we're nearing down under 40 seconds, and the time, the meterage, everything is going up against Tormenting Tentacles. They have to build up these ultimates in as best as they possibly can and use them one at a time and not all at once.
Yeah. And so now, again, it's just these chaotic trades back and forth here. Tormenting Tentacles really can't afford to have these right now. They're kind of out of time, right? These fights have to continue on the bot, but you're seeing Wolf be disconnected from the rest of the team, and this isolation could be massively a pain in the side here.
3% away from the Coalescence. No need for it, though. Hiccup will be the first one to go down to the Spear. Please heal my Orisa. Please. There we go. Coalescence comes in to keep our Orisa alive, but so does the Blizzard, both of which will be getting one a little more value than the other one. The Blizzard doesn't really find any targets here as overtime does get committed. There goes Skyarmouche. There goes the Tectonic Shock from Shao, which finds not one, but two. Astra will be the one to take down the Venture player. Hiccup comes back, not with a Deadeye, not with anything else, but just pure fundamentals and pure use of that new purchase. Is so nasty. The wall is almost going to be just the last little bit of survivability coming in from Astra as the rest of the team are trying to come back but cannot do so in time. It's a 2-0 lead here for Sabre in the series.
Yeah, and I mean, again, very dominant there on Colosseo. They were confident and in control the entire time. It felt like after those first couple of engages, and a lot of that came down to Scaramouche just being able to survive the onslaught. You know, it definitely helps when there's not a ton of damage that can remove you from the fight or anything like that. But again, just the Ramatra being allowed to live through some of these engagements, it's absolutely criminal. But, you know, Tormenting Tentacles, the comp that they opted for, didn't give them the ability to, you know, actually get through with anything that they were trying to do or take those high-profile targets out of the fight.
I agree with you. I feel like it's a lot of these fights, especially on Colosseo, were very messy. I didn't really see from either team. I felt like there was no real fight plan that happened at any point besides I'm going to walk in with Terror Surge. That was the clearest fight plan I've ever seen in my life, and that was very great for Tormenting Tentacles. But either way, I think a lot of these fights are just very messy, very improv, very just kind of improvising of what to do next if you get an opening pick, especially if you're Hiccup, who's always getting kind of like the opener or someone kind of lacking a little bit there for Sabre. So I do think that with the Tormenting Tentacles having a good amount of time to pick where to go next and who to ban next, the Diva was very strong. The Diva ban was very, very strong, I feel like. But now that we have the rest of the maps open to us, where do we go next? We're going to find out after. I think we're going to a very quick break here. A little 3-minute break, get our players situated with their ban and everything else. And we're going to get a little bit of a water break. We were back after the end of this break.
side here, you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, you know. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.
And we're back. Quick little break, quick little map selection, quick little ban phase, and we are going into our map number 3. We just got confirmation that it is going to be King's Row, something that we did predict a little bit earlier as maybe a favorite for the Tormenting Tentacles, as they do kind of gear towards these brawl compositions, some ball, but mostly that brawl comp. Megalast, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I would like it a lot more. They're probably still just going to end up not running speed character, and then it's going to be like, cool, my tank is going to be isolated, not able to do a whole heck of a lot from range here. But, you know, who knows? Maybe they could switch things up. Maybe King's Row is definitely the map better suited for them here, but we will just have to see, because bans also can impact that as well here, as, you know, we are simply wondering and waiting what these bans could be. Tormenting Tentacles, I mean, they have a few different options, right? They could definitely go for like the Ramatra. They could go for, I mean, what else is really being a nuisance? They could start banning out the speed character, since they don't want to play them themselves, I mean, there's options there.
Oh, for sure. I do think that one of the more prominent options, at least for Tormenting Tentacles, if they want to play like a Reinhardt or whatever, is definitely banning out Ramatra, seeing how well Scaramouche was able to play the character on Coliseo. I also think that, you know, maybe a backline ban of some sort, maybe, like you mentioned, banning out a speed character and kind of even the playing field a little bit there. Not gonna happen though. Hanzo gonna be the one to go down for the count. I do like it, at least on King's Row, but Sabre, I think they do take a little bit longer, a little bit more thought process behind their ban phase, or behind their ban pick. And I would almost kind of just single out maybe Moira, maybe single out the Orisa as well. Both really great options on King's Row, or at least very good options on King's Row against the Tormenting Tentacles.
Yeah, you know, great options here, but Sabre decides to clap back with a targeted ban of their own. No Moira into play allowed here for the Tormenting Tentacles here, and that has been their one consistent factor, regardless of everybody else switching up. They have been, you know, piloting this Moira a lot, and I would like to see maybe potentially some more aggression with the Coalescences and stuff like that if it weren't banned. But so, hey, maybe that's something that Map 4 Tormenting Tentacles will have to worry about if we end up getting there, but in the meantime, the Moira missing from the fight means that this backline, they've got to adapt once again.
They absolutely do, and the first thing they're going to start doing is getting some role swaps, and I believe also some new lineups in play here. So actually a lot of things happening. We have Vinsiri going back over to that support line. We have Wolf sticking to the tank. We have Frog moving from the support line, who was the Moira player, and they're going to be on the DPS line alongside Cherry on top, who is ready to start, you know, getting some heads, clicking some heads on ideally maybe an Ashe, who does work very well in King's Row, so hopefully she can play her favorite character in that sense. Sabre still sticking with their guns on their starting lineup for possibly what could be the last map of this series.
Yeah, it's very interesting approaches here where Sabre, again, makes complete sense, where they don't want to switch anything up. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Versus Tormented Tentacles, they really haven't given themselves the chance to have any stability. Constantly swapping people in and out of the lineup, swapping in who's on what roles even. Really, the only consistent part right now has been Wolf on that tank line. So, you know, maybe this is the puzzle piece that works, but if you don't build up any consistency, that can start to hinder you in the long run here. So I certainly hope Tormented Tentacles can find this winning solution and start sticking to it.
Absolutely. We're going into the map now, getting into King's Row, going to see who's defending first, who's attacking first. I have a good feeling that we're going to be seeing Sabre opt to attack first, I would say. And yes, we're going to be seeing them attack first. We're going to see the defenders of the Tormenting Tentacles come through on the defense. Now, I think that they're good at... I think they could be better at defending if we have any sort of inkling of what happened on Control, where whenever they were in control of the point, it was for a good while. So I do think at least they have that going for themselves on this hybrid map. But otherwise, I'm a little bit more weary about when we inevitably get to the Streets phase. Already starting things off with a Sigma pick here, which I do already like. The backline being the Wuyong and the Mercy to help, I think, just kind of facilitate Cherry on top on this Widowmaker. I do kind of like it so far.
Yeah, you're going to engage in the sniper battle knowing that Hiccup has been playing towards this Hanzo. Obviously, you know, the Hanzo being banned out does just mean that Hiccup's going to end up going over to the Widowmaker to match. But yeah, overall, fundamentally, it's not a flawed composition here. You have the Junkrat spam damage to also be a nuisance. It's very poke style. Not going to be a lot of point pressure for the Tormenting Tentacles for their defense, so that might be an issue, especially if the Ramatra and Mei can close the distance. But if they can keep them at arm's length, this poke should be a very helpful composition for them.
It absolutely should be. Oh, I do. Okay, I love this a lot. And a really good opening pick onto Xiao first and foremost on this Mei. So Sabre Ray going down first. I mean, that hasn't really been a popular thing. And we re-peak, actually, the Widowmaker, Cherry on top. Now really looking solid on this Widowmaker, finding not just one, but two great picks here. And now Sabre forced to kind of regroup, poking around this, around the main entryway a little bit here while we wait for some respawns.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to wait for the respawns here. That Rhine Shield's not going to be able to protect everybody, especially if the Sojourn tries to take an off angle and things like that. So beautiful angle being held from Cherry on top here, as well as the space being held, not actually getting walled off here. The Sigma stays alive.
I love that they're playing also in the hotel so often, but here comes the statue rotation from Sabre, which does get called up by Wolf. Unfortunately, the Rock doesn't really find much but the shield, and we're finally going to see the team of Sabre start walking into the fight, starting to put their feet on the objective itself and forcing some of that progress bar to start going in their favor. However, both of the supports are going to be keeping their tank alive here. We do see Maddie go down for the count according to Frog, who is on Junkrat, finding the activation mine onto the Lucio player. We do see Frog go down to the disruptive area of effect from Hiccup and gets res in the meantime. Kokoro, unfortunately, a little bit, wait, hold on. Surely. Oh, yes. That's my Kiriko player. Please! There we go.
I love how the Mercy comes and peeks and says, nope, I'm not doing anything with that. Go ahead, get the Widow while you're at it. Nope. Nope, nope, nope.
Absolutely not. Oh! Yo, Shao said, let me on the Widowmaker real quick, Hiccup. Good res, though, meaning that all that effort is all for naught, unfortunately. Hiccup now going down to Cherry on top in this second, or in one of these next engagements. Only under 2 minutes left. The tire comes through, rips open onto Lucio and the Reinhardt, and suddenly the Tormenting Tentacles looking so strong when they had been kind of faltering beforehand.
Yeah, faltering is definitely the word, but like you said, this defense is starting to pay dividends for them right now, this poke composition, especially with Cherry on this Widowmaker really being a thorn in the side here for Sabre. Now they've switched up their composition once again here. They're going to be trying to teleport the Reinhardt around the map, and Zhao just going to have to be trying to peek into that Widow duel. But again, Vinsiri has the Mercy pocket for the Widow this entire time, so, you know, Cherry on top's always going to have advantage.
For sure. And Hiccup going over to the Symmetra, tactic we've been talking about a little bit earlier to help facilitate these walkarounds for a Scaramouche. I like it. Now you're seeing this really aggressive play onto the Windmaker on the high ground. However, here comes the Mercy, forced to use this Valkyrie as well. The Flux comes through, finds Scaramouche, and now you're just seeing a Tidal Blast committed onto the Sigma. Doesn't really find the subsequent stun there onto Hiccup, who's able to kind of teleport in time to avoid that effect. Cherry on top does find a little bit of the one up onto Hiccup. However, I do think that with, you know, there's not really enough forces to keep everyone alive. We're going to go for a retouch. So the point will open up for a Sabre, especially with under 30 seconds to go.
Yeah, that took them a lot longer than they probably expected to here. They definitely have met some resistance, and now Cherry on top switching over to the Ashe, a little bit more consistent damage, has the ability, like the Dynamite, to help blow up these teleports and things like that. Overall, a good swap here. Meanwhile, Zhao just going to be sitting on the payload, bit of a payload Princess Widowmaker here. Not a common strategy, but hey, listen, when your Reinhardt has Earth Shatter, you don't really got to do a whole heck of a lot.
You're right, and they were set up on this high ground as well. I mean, we do see them kind of backing out a little bit, going for a slightly off angle. Otherwise, Tormenting Tentacles are playing this back end corner a tiny bit more, respecting the Windmaker a little bit too much. I think these guys, they gotta start walking in. Oh, what a slam comes through from Scaramouche. However, in the front line, going super low on health. Great peel from the supports as the car is now moving briskly through the street phase. But mind you, there is some contention happening behind the scenes as Shao finds not one but 2 eliminations, helping out the side of Sabre even without their Reinhardt.
Yeah, and now Wolf has just sort of W-keyed his way to cart here. Forces the Symmetra barrier. I mean, you got that going for you because they just really want to dispatch you. Because realistically, as apparently an Amber Alert's going off, so I'm just going to have to run and be a superhero real quick. But in the meantime, just we have now the payload moving again.
I thought that was your mic for a second. I was like, wow, how interesting. No, but really, in all seriousness, we are going to see these guys start to really threaten the approach of another point completion. Headshot onto Frog. The res does come through from Vinsiri, kind of negating it, but Shao finds another one onto Cherry on top either way. Scaramouche on the Diva at the same time, forcing a lot of pressure onto the front line. We forced the hands already from the Sigma and the Rock as well. So at this point, you should really have nothing to boot. So that's why they're backing up so much here. High ground being taken over by Scaramouche, forcing out this Mercy, who is now super low on health. Vinsiri does get healed up and has 91% to another Valk. Frog does have the tire when we come back from the spawn room, but here is just a poke phase, and Scaramouche is going so low, needs to get back, but not back in time, and does get demeched here.
And that DMAC is absolutely brutal here, but now, you know, trying to change tides here with the rip tire, I mean, very interesting one. Ultimately not going to get a lot, going to be traded out with Frog finally being found out by a Symmetra teleport. But again, it's just sort of Sabre wasting time right now as they got to make sure Hiccup gets out and not potentially staggered here. It seems like that will be the case, and now that they'll have tools like this Kitsune Russian Sound Barrier to push in this next fight, hopefully they can continue to get progress.
Oh, for sure. The Kitsune should be more than enough to just kind of threaten that main space. But speaking of being threatened, Cherry on top, forced to back out immediately, tries to get Hiccup a couple of times, but Scaramouche is right there to help the Symmetra make sure that they stay alive a little bit longer. The teammate does come in again from Scaramouche, but Hiccup finds the elimination onto not just one backliner, but also onto Cherry, facilitated by that turret kill. And I don't think there's a res available from Vinsiri, so there's not going to be any sort of recontest, any sort of helping from Cherry on top, who was able to proc the Bob just in the nick of time, but it looks like it didn't really do all too much here, forcing the side of the backliners to start backing up and trying to help out Wolf at the same time, who is on the car, contesting it as much as he possibly can in the last minute here, forcing the photon barrier also be expended and the turrets set up on this high ground area. Teleporting up to the skybox is gonna be Wolf with this flux onto Hiccup, and that's gonna be absolutely zero chance of another recontest. I mean, they're starting to back up already with only under a minute left.
Yeah, backing up for the time being here is exactly the call that needs to be made. You can't do anything without your Symmetra. Tormenting Tentacles, you know, they did have to use a few tools there. Hope the Diva Bomb, no Sig Shield in sight!
And can't get there fast enough either to cover away from the 3-man bomb from Scaramouche. Another one has hit the books from the side, all the way from first point, all the way now to this third map. And here it is. We're going to be clearing the last bit of King's Row with holding on to Tidal Blast, holding on to another Valkyrie. It's a big win for Sabre when they looked a little bit weary in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, Sabre definitely, they get first point unlocked barely with 20 seconds left, but then they're able to just sort of coast through the streets phase, heading into this factory here a little bit worse for wear, but they get the job done at the end of the day, and now are going to actually force the Tormenting Tentacles to respond with a decent attack of their own. Granted, they should realistically be able to do that, right? If Cherry can get back on that Widowmaker, at least for first point, and just find some opening picks, as we know Cherry is capable of, this should hopefully be a good chance for Tormenting Tentacles to actually fight back and show what they can do. But the one concern is their poke composition is definitely not suited for attack, so they are going to have to switch things up.
They certainly are. This Orisa will be the first thing coming out. Frog sticking with their guns, sticking with their Junkrat, which I do think had a lot of value, especially on first point. Definitely kind of caught people like, for example, Hiccup off guard, sometimes Rokuro off guard, and put a lot of that poke pressure onto Scaramouche, who will be committing with this Diva on the defense phase. Xiao also, on the same note, will be committing to sticking to this Widowmaker, whereas Cherry on top will be going back over to Cassidy. I do like it a lot. Could put some pressure onto Hiccup's teleportations and maybe onto Maddie in the backline, but otherwise, we're starting things off with a Diva defense. We're starting things off with a Mercy and Juno attack. Whoa. Yes. The icons were messing me up for a second there, but no, I was correct. They're attacking now.
Yeah, but again, if they're attacking now is the best way to put it here, as the Orisa, again, very fast in there, but Zhao actually going to be the Widowmaker stepping up this time.
The Widowmaker that stepped up. The Widowmaker that really did step up, though, gets 2 eliminations easily for the side of Sabre. And really just, I love that Tormenting Tentacles do kind of continue to throw in the W key, even when they're down some pretty imperative players. And more so, no roll coming in from the side of Cherry on top, but we're rotating around the statue anyway. Frog does peek out the Widowmaker. Xiao can't quite find the head onto the Junkrat quite yet, but we repositions accordingly to now accommodate for the side of the Tormenting Tentacles, now pushing into the objective. You already see Wolf is down there. You see also the high ground being controlled by Vinsiri on this Kiriko for now, and unfortunately no head still in the favor of Xiao, so that pressure has kind of been depleted as the point has already gone 1 tick in the board.
Yeah, already 1 tick on the board, going to be booting up towards a second here in Tormented Tentacles. They seem to have established their presence here, and barring a miracle play from this Widowmaker, it's going to simply be a shutdown here. As the Kiriko has decided to get involved and do exactly what needs to be done.
Sometimes that's the point of a support. No. That's the role of a flex support. Sometimes you need to take care of the Widowmaker yourself. The Diva Bomb does come in, but the res is clutch either way from Charming Zed. And just like that, with a very healthy 5-minute time bank, they're gonna start pushing through these streets with a bomb and with 4 ultimates in the back pocket.
Yeah. Having those ultimates in the back pocket here, like you said, it's going to be absolutely massive for Tentacles, right? Because the more time they can have on the bank, obviously, the better, as their goal is going to be to go into these extra rounds. Sabre, starting to build up towards some ultimates themselves, but realistically, you have the Tidal Blast and the Sim Wall, 2 things that aren't going to be majorly game-changing unless you're really able to find ways to make them impactful in the fight here. So, have to see how this is going to be executed. Meanwhile, Tentacles all seem to be sticking to the card. Nobody wants to really push up beyond it.
Oh no, Vincere taken out by Maddie on the Ana, and even more so, you lose out on your tank. Tries to put for a trap there, but not going to find too much. Frog immediately backing up with, of course, their Mercy. We do find a 1. Cherry on top does find out Maddie, but Maddie gets the reversal pick anyway. So a little bit of a PEMDAS cancel out situation as we are forcing a regroup.
Forcing a regroup for the time being. But how much longer until the fight ends up breaking out, right? You already see somebody contest the objective. Frog just peaks at the wrong time, but now, listen, doesn't matter. Tentacles are going to keep fighting, even down a person.
I mean, they have a really good opening to do so, and they're going to be running things off with the Crusading Rush and the Terror Surge indeed. Tidal Blast does get committed, but it's not the end-all be-all. There goes Rokuro, there goes Hiccup, taken down by the high-energy charge blast of the Terror Surge, and Wolflamingos is, of course, Flaminos is, of course, going to be walking in with even more aggression onto the baby Diva. Really getting a big opener here for the Tormenting Tentacles, and more so, they late stagger onto Xiao, who was holding on to their own Deadeye. Unfortunately, not going to be seeing that character for a little bit here as Sabre now regrouping, and there might be another stagger onto poor old Maddie as well.
Yeah, and I mean, this stagger could be massive, right? You're nearing the end of point B. It's going to have to be a bit of a sacrifice from Sabre to get somebody on this objective in time. As it's nearing the card, nobody touches. We have a Nano, nobody touches. Oh!
No, Nano was used, but no, unfortunately, not touching in time. But we are going to still get the trade off. Bomb comes in and finds the D-Mech onto Scaramouche. Either way, Deadeye is still online for Xiao. Could go for a flank eye. Definitely gonna rip it open. 1, 2, 3 heads. Oh, got a little bit too, pulled the trigger a little bit too early. Got 2 instead, but was able to finish it out onto Cherry on top with a 3rd headshot. Really well done from Sabre to bring it back to speed. But you have a 3-minute and 45-second hold to make or break here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive defensive ask of any team, right? You're pretty much just going to have to find ways to mitigate this attack, constantly come up with picks and things like that. And realistically, you don't have a ton of ways to do it, right? The Diva goes in too far. That mech is going to be blown up, as we've seen time and again. As well as Zhao on the Cassidy certainly can put in the damage, but against the Cassidy on the other side that has a Mercy pocket, you can't do everything!
Yo, that one didn't even move. That one didn't even move.
No, they TP'd it. They TP'd it.
That was so sexy. I take everything back.
TP Diva bombs in 2025. I've seen it all.
That was beautiful. I will say, I didn't catch it because I saw the Diva bomb get used, and I immediately looked at the kill feed and saw 4 die, and I was like, okay. I didn't see it again. It was a really good teleporter coming in from Hiccup. Either way, we still have 2 minutes and 5 seconds to hold, and they're already walking in with this aggression around the corner because they have the Deadeye ready for Cherry on top to utilize. We have the subsequent Valkyrie as well. Suzu negates the incoming anti-nade, barely even allowing it to purple anybody beforehand. And there goes Rokuro, there goes Xiao. We find the Symmetra on the back line, not even able to use the Photon Barrier, so we might get a full cap here, actually.
Yeah. Potentially the full cap. Like you said, the payload just barreling down to the end here, but they're going to have to be sending somebody. Finally, somebody actually gets the touch.
Whoa, not just a touch, but also an elimination onto the Kiriko with Anti-Nade of all things. Scaramouche finds a pick onto Cherry on top. The Terror Surge does come through, finds the flex support of HMS Sabre, and now Hiccup trying their best with this high energy Symmetra. Does get the elimination onto Wolflamingos, but a tire from the back is able to eliminate the frontline pressure of Scaramouche and Hiccup at the exact same time, and there is an insane time differential here. 2.5 versus just 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a massive advantage for the Tentacles right now that they absolutely need. Again, we have to remember they're down with their backs against the wall in the series right now, and to come away with this map could be the start of a reverse sweep for them, but they, still have to be able to secure it. Now, though, that they're going to be back on the defense for the Tentacles, they can go back to that poke comp that they were so well versed on, that they seemed incredibly confident on with the Widowmaker and things of that nature. Doesn't seem like they're going to initially reach for it. A little bit more of a brawl style here with the Orisa, May, Cassidy. This is, again, a little more stable here, but realistically, Sabre now is going to have the pressure entirely on them, especially on Zhao, to sort of find value and try to get a pick on this Widowmaker.
100%. And Shaw has been pretty good at doing so, I will say, at the very least for Sabre. So there is definitely some merit behind that, some confidence behind that claim. And I really do want to see how that works. But now we have Frog on May. This is great. You're just going to completely run down their timer of a minute and make sure they can't even get to the point in time either way. We do see, here we go, Xiao Mao walking up onto the high ground. No one quite peeking the Windmaker quite yet, as everyone is pretty much hunkered down behind this wall. But we do see the D.Va come through from Scaramouche, and again, no one is peeking this Windmaker. Now we do see Cherry on top slightly walking up towards the statue. Does find a little bit of a clip onto the head, but not quite enough to mitigate any sort of this pressure, as we do see the D-Mech come through from Scaramouche first and foremost, and the baby D.Va cannot really do much against the forces of this Cassidy, of this Orisa, and Scaramouche does get the remech, but not for very long. Has to regroup quickly with the team here with only under a minute left, or only 30 seconds left.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of their 2-fight opportunities completely wasted, and it is continuing to be wasted, as Maddie now going down means that you're not going to be able to wait for your Ana. Again, somebody's got to get over to the objective just to trigger overtime and be able to contest it from that point. Whoever goes in is going to be isolated, and Hiccup again just sort of TP's in alone. No coordination, no nothing. Sabre, this is really falling all by the wayside right now.
It is 3 seconds left, and Scaramouche just barely gets the D-Mech. I'm not even sure. I mean, there is me a touch here from the Lucio and from the Baby D.Va, but I mean, Cherry on top has just been a menace, especially coupled with that Mercy damage boost. There is absolutely zero way for HMS Sabre to bring it back. Hiccup once again going for a very long-range teleport. The wall comes in to mitigate any sort of extra innings, I don't think, from anybody. And now there's a full hold in favor of the Tormenting Tentacles, and they have just 33% to go to win it out with 2.5 minutes in the time bank.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, Mod.
Don't say it. Don't say it. We can't jinx it.
But hear me out. Drawable?
My headphones are off. My headphones have been off.
Anybody want a 6-map series today? Anyone want one? But no, realistically, I mean, Tentacles, they would all have to hook their controllers to the wall. Right now, it seems like they have their footing here on Kings Row. They seem to have it on lock right now to take this map and propel us into a map 4 here. Meanwhile, Sabre, again, they're going to have to play for the draw in this situation. So their defense, they are swapping some things up. They're going to roll out the double hit scan, the Ashe and Cassidy here, which, is going to be able to exert a lot of pressure here. If there's a Widowmaker, you can't really do that. But on the flip side of things, you're also going to introduce the Iari into play, which I absolutely love, because it's going to allow your supports to be a little bit more DPS focused and also be a damage source here, and potentially shutting down, some of these kills that need to come through, especially onto targets like the Mercy, who has just been getting free reses all map long.
Not even just that, but also just free, damage boosting. Cherry, for example, Wolf as well, and you can really amplify that damage output against the opposition. The Tormenting Tentacles do have a lot of time to work with, so you kind of see them rotating up towards that building, up around the high ground. I mean, they're waiting. Oh, we call them the waiters. Scaramouche was so patient, waiting for that high ground to be committed by the side of the Tormenting Tentacles, but not going to be finding that instead. They walk around the statue at the meantime. We do see the spin and the javelin spin get used, but the big anti-nade and the subsequent sleep will be putting a full stop on the attack phase for the Tormenting Tentacles, as we now are nearing down under the 2-minute marker.
Yeah, and so first fight, a very long rotation for Tormenting Tentacles. Again, no speed character in sight, because who needs those? Ultimately ends with the beautiful anti-nade coming out from Maddie here, but really it was not really a notable fight beyond that point, right? Obviously you get picks and some ult charge built for everybody, but nobody really close to anything just yet, so this should be just a very neutral fight unless it runs long.
You're absolutely right, and they're gonna go for a different rotation here. Looking like they want to walk through the hotel, but does get scouted out early on by Scaramouche and company. Cherry on top will be the first one to go down to the Nemesis form, literally just a punching bag for the Ramatra here. Backline will be left alone for a isolated Mei who is stuck in cryo form. Suzu does get completely used out here, and of course the rest of the team will be falling down slowly. Ghoul we actually back out, not charming though, but this Kiriko is still somewhere in the backline.
This Kiriko is somewhere in the back line. I feel like that's definitely something that could sum up this series. Both sides starting to build up towards ultimates, but Tormenting Tentacles has to reset here. They are a little bit too far in without the rest of their team. And they use Kitsune!
We did, in fact, use the Kitsune Rush against the Deadeye. Charming Z is going to completely walk into it. Does get headshotted. Now, that's a really big ultimate to lose, I will say. Oh, no.
Okay, so listen. The 20 seconds left, get Frog to point, the Blizzard on point should win you the game. Because somebody would literally have to stay on point and die to stay in the Blizzard here. But you're just waiting. You have to get over to the objective. Okay, finally they're approaching.
No, they're walking in with Blizzard, in fact, in tow. However, we do see Scaramouche does get antsnated from Vincere. Beautiful, great swap onto the Ana character. Really just kind of evening out the playing fields for these antinades. Here comes the Captain Sun also from Sabre. And the Bob to help everything out will be the end-all be-all, I think. Everything has gone down. It is just Xiao. It is just Rukuru sticking alive and making sure to clean up the fight. And it is, in fact, drawable. This is the first draw I've at least casted. I'm not sure if it's the first draw of the season, but this is crazy. Megalaus, thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling it into existence.
I don't know what to say. I have no words. My words have left me. This should not be possible. This should not have happened. We've entered a timeline that, by all theories, doesn't exist. Okay. To bring us back to Earth, they got through the map. It's a draw. Still 2-0 for Sabre. You got the Hanzo ban out of the system, so now you can put Hiccup back on the Hanzo for wherever we end up going at. If I'm not mistaken, the way a draw works, Tormenting Tentacles still get a map pick here. Granted, we've gone through Push, we've gone through Control and Hybrid now, so all that's going to be left is either Escort or Flashpoint. I'm guessing they're scared of Flashpoint. I don't think that they can take a Flashpoint mirror against Sabre as it stands right now. Escort, lots of poke options, you know. We could throw a little bit of Circuit Royale or something in the mix. I have to double check if that's even in the map pool. I could just be yapping out of my butt. No, Circuit Royale is there, so this is certainly an option for them to play that poke style that we saw them, you know, finally look comfortable on.
Yeah, I had to agree. I do want them to kind of go towards like a poke kind of style. And I do agree with you in the full sense that they are too scared to go with Flashpoint. And for good reason. Control is like kind of like a little glimpse of what a Flashpoint map could look like, just a little bit faster. And unless you've been Ramatra, I don't really feel like there's any sort of way to see Tormenting Tentacles go over to a Flashpoint unless they're forced into a map 5. Whatever it is now. I can't even count what it is at this point. So with that being said, I do hope we go to something like current Circle Royale. If they go to a Flashpoint, it has to go for a Ramatra ban. They have to go for a Cassie ban. They have to go for something that will mitigate any of that pressure that I think they're kind of feeling at this point, at this moment. You know, after King's Row, after a draw on King's Row, when you had the timer lead, you had all advantage as well. And losing out on it, I mean, it kind of messes with your mental a little bit. And you're basically back to where you started with an 0-2 record in the series.
Yeah. Exactly. It feels very odd. You're back to where you started. I think that's a great way to put it. Because, you know, it feels a little bit Uncharted. It's like, okay, we played through maps. We still have to win every single map. And the other team still has to lose every single map. But we're just kind of here. And again, it can create a little bit of an odd space, but teams are having to make their choices and things like that. And while they're thinking, I'm just trying to think about, again, where we want to go. Realistically, it should just be a Circuit Royale pick. Like, there's nothing else that should happen. And it's Rialto, so I'm stupid and dumb, and I want to crash out. This might be my last. This might be my last ever cast. I think I'm done.
is my last ever cast. We're about to see the retirement of Megalast in real time as we go over to Rialto. Another map you don't really see all that often, and I'm gonna be very honest, I've never really casted it all that often either, or scrimmed it, or anything like that, so it's kind of like no man's land. I equate this like no man's land. Anything could go in my eyes. Anything happens. Everything happens, nothing ever matters.
Yeah, expect the unexpected. Let's put it that way. So we've gone through Rialto. What are our bans going to be? Tormenting Tentacles. All right. So getting inside their head, they are probably like, oh no, we don't want to play against Ramatra. They're going to take the Ramatra out of the fight because they simply don't know how to beat down the Ramatra with sticks. And that happens to the best of us sometimes. That's going to be my locked-in prediction for real. And it's totally going to pop up here. Never mind. They banned Lucio. Why?
No speed. Forcing Juno. Or forcing some other backline from HMS Sabre, who are now on their ban phase. Now, if I'm the mentality of HMS Sabre, low-key, that casting was kind of cooking my team. I'm not going to lie. You know, the cast from Tentacles was really doing I think a lot more work than I think Sabre were expecting. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, I mean, either a cast or a Widowmaker ban, I think will go pretty crazy on Rialto, especially Widowmaker to an extent, because I would say both the DPSs from Sabre and Tentacles were very proficient on the Widowmaker. Lots of trade-offs back and forth, lots of fight wins and fight losses that were equated to them. It is what it is. So I think those two will be some pretty solid bans coming in from the Sabres. Now, they could also just kind of really hinder Tentacles and just kind of force out the Orisa, or even Sigma. Either one could be also an option to just kind of get that Achilles heel, get the Achilles heel of their opponent.
Yeah, they're really trying to cross their T's and dot their I's and make sure they hit the Achilles heel, like you said, as they're taking just a little bit of extra time to figure out any and everything that they need to do here. Figure out exactly where they want to go with this ban. But, again, in the meantime, like you said, that Cassidy is looking like a Primo slot. Just absolutely tearing the team open at points, just not wanting to deal with it anymore. It's completely valid if HMS Sabre wants to go for it, but again, expect the unexpected sort of situation where any and everything can happen here. And I mean, who knows? Maybe they don't want to deal with teleporter plays anymore, so they ban a Symmetra. Like, who realistically is going to know?
Go over to, well, we're waiting for the bans because bans are getting a little bit too long, a little bit longer for Sabre as they are really contemplating what's going on. Let's look at some substitutions that we do know that is happening for sure. We have Cherry on Top staying on the roster, but Astra is coming back after her one map break, and we still are keeping Vincere and Charming Zed on that backline. Wolf, I have seen you for all 5 maps. I better see this Reinhardt come through on Rialto. It'd be really funny. Unless they ban you, unless they ban it because they hate you. But we have finally gotten our actual ban, and it's going to be a little bit of a hindrance to Wolf. It sounds like it's going to be the Orisa from Sabre.
Yeah, not wanting to deal with the Orisa anymore, make it more of that Ryan or potentially Ramatra could be the key difference maker here in this sort of setup. But again, it's just sort of taking out that one Brawl tank that that people are going to want to run. Tormenting Tentacles, they're going to have some options available to them now, right? That last map, we know Moira was banned out, and they looked incredibly good without the Moira, but I worry that they're immediately going to go back to it, sort of like it's just their bread and butter. They're just more comfortable on the Moira pick, when they don't necessarily need it in some of these compositions here. So it'll be interesting to see, now that Tormenting Tentacles has sort of been freed from their jail, what they will end up doing with their picks.
Oh yeah, for sure. And with I don't know, with Orisa going down like this, and also like no Lucio on the field for Sabre, I do think this is probably some of the more interesting bans we've gotten in the series. Definitely more than the Genji ban we randomly got on Colosseo. That that was Mickey Mouse, personally. But I do think this is probably one of the more interesting ones we've seen. And with Frog, being removed right now, taking a little break for this this series. We do see one more substitution coming in for the side of Sabre. Remember Xiao and how we were hyping them up the entire time? We're gonna actually have Xiao back out for a little bit here as Playback makes an appearance for Sabre, fulfilling that DPS role here, that hit scan role. In the meantime, you know, with Xiao going out, no Cassie, or maybe a Cassie, but definitely no Widowmaker, because that was a insane Widowmaker to see. Maybe Hiccup can play the character instead.
Yeah. And so now, like you said, that Widowmaker out. But again, it doesn't necessarily read too poorly here. Because again, you're going to have that Hanzo back in play, so you just maybe don't want to play the double sniper look. More than makes sense here. And this is the first time that Sabre is reaching into their bag of tricks to sub somebody else. So I'm interested to see what Playback is going to end up bringing to the lineup here that wasn't already being brought by Xiao.
Okay, we're finally going to get into our maps. First and foremost, again, Rialto. Kind of uncharted territory, I would say. Doesn't really get to play it too often in multiple tournament spaces, or even if it is an option, it doesn't really get picked too much. But I think it's just interesting that this is the pick here, I would say, for Tormenting Tentacles into this game 4. But still on match series, you know, 2-0 in favor of Sabre. They're looking very good. King's Row was a little bit of a fluke, a little bit of a wake-up call, like, hey, don't get too comfortable, because things can always change around for the worse. So hopefully they lock in on their attack phase for Rialto.
That is the hope and the dream. Both these teams going to be trying their best to lock in, one to close the series, one to open the door back up on it. And we'll have to see, right? The defenders going to be able to get an easier read on them right now, and it is going to be Tormenting Tentacles, who have a little bit of that poke style going once again here. They do have Cherry on the Widowmaker here with that mercy damage, but also the Soldier 76 instead of that Cassidy. Again, the Cassidy wasn't banned out, so you could have still kept that one going, but maybe Astra just simply more comfortable on the Soldier 76 for that consistent damage. Meanwhile, Sabre going to come out with the D.Va, and this is a very dive-heavy composition. Besides Hiccup, the obvious exception to that, who's going to be playing more of these longer ranges when the dive goes in and trying to find arrows onto key targets.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's happened beforehand. But now Cherry on top is sticking onto his Widowmaker, backing out a little bit here because you can see there's a rotation of the Tracer. Looking at my back line, there's an Anti-Nade forcing out the Blink. Unfortunately, while we were super hyper-focused on this Tracer, though, Wolf is going to go down for the count, and it's too unsafe to actually go for a res on our tank. So with that being said, you're kind of subsequently forced just to play with the DPS line, and I mean, at that point, it is just a complete cleanup for Sabre as they walk this car off very quickly towards the halfway point of point A.
Yeah, and, you know, the focus fire onto the tank, thanks to Playback, sort of taking everybody else's attention, leaving Wolf on an island despite being in, you know, perfect LOS of both supports here. Absolutely what you love to see. Tormenting Tentacles sent a little bit reeling, but still have a chance to contest before this point A is capped.
Oh, for sure, but the Sleep and the Anti do connected onto the Sigma here, forcing the hands extremely early. 68% to the Pulse Bomb. Playback is going to definitely... Whoa, okay, going to play definitely get that really charged up super quickly. Now, unfortunately, we did not get a touch. We find the first point underneath the belt of Sabre, and they're going to continue, especially with Maddie leading the helm on this Ana from the high ground, getting not one, but 2 eliminations in the favor of Sabre, and Playback is in the front line, really just kind of wreaking havoc on everybody. Okay, Maddie with the 4K, my bad.
Yeah, just a casual 4K for the Ana. Sometimes, you know, grandma's got to get down and dirty with it. But listen, sometimes you just do it best. Now that we're on to point B, we are going to see these control of the high grounds matter incredibly. Tormenting Tentacles on the defense is going to have to try to, you know, probably send quite a few members up here to dislodge this D.Va. Or Scaramouche could just drop incredibly low HP and have to fall back to the objective.
Absolutely. And D.Va Bomb is online here, Megalast. Don't hold your breath. You might get another 3K. Pulse Bomb goes crazy, finds the floor though, so the famous floor pulse will be seen. But there it is! Not quite 4. The turret is not a sentient being, but it still finds 3 names under their belt. Scaramouche, he is just completely running rampant with these D.Va Bombs. Map after map after map.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly mind-boggling. The D.Va Bomb, it's just creating space, getting kills, taking people out of the fight, and it just seems like there's no answer or repercussion to it. If only we had a character that could position a shield in front of the D.Va Bomb to save people from it. But regardless here, Scaramouche is going to get DMAC at the start of this fight.
Even eliminated early on as well from Wolf. So at that moment, this could be a little bit of a breath of fresh air for the defenders here. Forcing the Swift Step out from the Kiriko. The Brigida also goes down for the count. So with that being said, it's a big turnaround here, I will say, for the Tormenting Tentacles, especially when you're able to rip out that visor and really just put in a lot of pressure onto Maddie and the rest of the back line here. Hiccup, the only one standing tall and still kind of re-peaking at just sub 58 or almost sub 50 HP, backs out and gets stabilized with the rest of the team.
Yeah, and that stabilization effort obviously going to matter a lot here. HMS Sabre going to have both support ultimates here, so they'll have sustain with the rally and a nano boost to boot, but it seems as though they're going to have to wait just a little bit longer to enact any of that, as the DMAC and the kill onto the Tracer means that Sabre is just waiting, as Tormenting Tentacles, despite being on a poke comp, have all sort of pushed up and retaken the space as though we're still fighting the end of point B.
Yeah, for sure. Very bold place to also defend as well. So close up. And really, again, forcing the recall from this Tracer. Pulse Bomb goes wide. Good Suzu negating the early elimination onto the Kiriko. You see Scaramouche is Nano, goes in for a flank. And the Anti-Nade does find at least Charming Zed. Vince also goes down right after the fact. Scaramouche gets the elimination onto Cherry. There's a rally against the Flux, but it's all for naught. Wolf Flamingos is just, or Wolf Falaminos is unfortunately just going to get ping pong all over the place and eventually sent back to the spawn room.
Yeah, solid trade, though. You get out both support ultimates in exchange for just your Gravitic Flux, so now you're going to have your own support ultimates online, as well as a Molten Core for Cherry on top here. They're clearly not a fan of the Tracer of playback here and wanting to shut it down. Cherry has to be careful to not take it too many arrows to the head there, but now this Molten Core is ready to go create space as long as no one dies to the Diva Bomb.
Well,
and 3.
Well, 3 may die from to Diva Bomb. Anthony does get committed onto Cherry on top, who did use the Molten Core at the very last tail end of that fight. And now they have really nothing but the double support ults online. Wolf goes over to Reinhardt to go for a touch, but unfortunately, no one's quite fast enough to get back over there. Even Vince couldn't switch out to anybody. So with that being said, a big 3-pointer here for Sabre with a very healthy time bank as well to boot. 3 minutes, only 1 minute less than when we started with.
Yeah, I mean, massive, healthy time bank for HMS Sabre. A good return to form for them after a King's Row, where they clearly were not in control and not stable. Tormented Tentacles, though, I mean, they've been in, similar situation entering King's Row. Obviously, the time bank wasn't as powerful as 3 minutes is starting to look right now, but they know their back is against the wall, and drawing is simply not an option this time, so they're going to have to be able to fight it out all the way through the map. And it's, not entirely hopeless. Like, a lot of those fights were simply lost 2 to 3 Ks from a Diva Bomb. If that wasn't happening, there were several pockets of good defensive holds that were coming out from the Tentacles that can be replicated once they go on the defense. But looking at their attack right now, it seems like they might be opting into some strategies here, trying to teleport the Reinhardt around, let that hammer swing, and Vincere is back on the Moira. Oh boy, I love Moira.
Absolutely, we do see. I love that we're finally getting the Symmetra's Reinhardt teleports that works so well for these kind of compositions in general. Reinhardt literally cannot get anywhere unless he charges, and at that point, it's like, okay, buddy, can't do nothing about it. Sabre also going to have playback on Venture here. Hiccup and company sticking to the guns with what has been working in the meantime, already starting things off with a lot of space kind of given it to the Tormenting Tentacles, but the high ground is very much in control of Sabre. We're trying to place these turrets at least on the objective, so if they force to fall down, that's going to be a nice little bit of damage boost for Astra as we are now rounding the corner of first point. Playback comes in for a little bit of a dive, though, from the back. And they burrow away to safety after being sought out so early from 4, and if not all 5 players of the Tormenting Tentacles. There goes Vincere, though. One headshot to the face. That's the end of the attack.
Yeah, that's the end of the attack right there. The Hanzo finally being able to come alive. The Reinhardt trying to swing to get some extra, but there's not really going to be any need for that. So now, looking into this next fight, playback is going to be missing a little bit late here, and potentially Hiccup as well has to try to stay safe, as this Reinhardt is healthy now that the Moira has respawned. Hiccup built a quick Dragon Strike, but might now actually need to invest it incredibly early here, thanks to the fact that playback is no longer in the fight.
there it is. As you predicted, there comes the Dragon Strike. Also the anti-nade as well onto the rotating backline. Forces Astra to go down for the count. What a pin, though. But Scaramouche is able to back out, forcing the complete repositioning here of the backline, who were originally on the high ground, now on the low ground to keep everyone up. And Hiccup, I mean, always with a 1-2-3 piece with all of the cooldowns in the world of used onto the rest of the opposition. And there it is. Big hold here. 2.5 minutes left on the clock.
Big hold starting to come out here. Again, it requires the Dragon Strike investment, but when you build it that quickly, it's a-okay. Tentacles, they are coming up to some tools of their own here. They have the Earth Shatter, as well as starting to edge closer and closer to that Kitsune Rush, but nothing online just yet here, so they're going to have to play this a little bit more standard until they can find these ults that can change the fight.
100%. First things first, the Nano comes up and does get committed onto, of course, the D.Va player. D.Va in there, you know, really just in their backline, has 5% away from charging up that D.Va bomb, but not even able to proc it fast enough, unfortunately. So with a little bit of a D-Mech and without Cherry on top either from Tormenting Tentacles, they can actually start walking in with a Shatter of all things. Self-Nade does come through from the Ana, but which actually, no, I'm sorry, actually does make a Scaramouche stay alive. I thought Scaramouche was going to die in the middle of those swings, so that's kind of crazy to see. But only 70% to the remech here. We have Astra, who's able to keep the Photon Barrier in the back pocket. Could use at any point, especially in the face of the Tectonic Shock. And the Shock does find Vinsiri. There's a remech as well, and there goes Wolf at the same time. The holding of the wall, I'm not sure was the right choice here. But wait, I apologize. We did get the cap though.
Yeah, I was going to say, beautiful Tectonic Shock, but nobody was on the objective thanks to the D.Va being de-mech'd here. So now it's going to be a little bit of a scattered defense. You're seeing already the rotations trying to come out here. People realizing, okay, we can't hold on the cart. We need to try to set ourselves up in a better spot. But lots of tools for both sides to work with here. Definitely looking to see potentially where the support ultimates are going to go. The Kitsune Rush could be amazing to help the Tormenting Tentacles continue to build momentum here.
Oh, here comes the wall, though, coming in from our attackers. 3 minutes left on the clock here. Dragon Strike will be used no earlier and no later than that. What a sleep on the charge, however, inadvertently saving Hiccup's life even for a second longer. Photon Barrier is now gone down. Turrets are set up on this bridge area, so no one can start touching without at least facing the turrets here. Here comes the D.Va bomb, though, from Scaramouche. Finds Vinsiri, and just like that, as always, one bomb means typically the team fight will be won for Sabre, as always. And here on top does back away, and Charming Zed will be a little bit staggered out, but not too shabby.
Not too shabby indeed here, as now Tormenting Tentacles are going to have to find a way to approach, and it seems like Metro Teleporter is going to be their answer for the time being here. Relatively safe, but now actually they realized the Venture was there and made clear effort to actually clear play back out, but it did cost them the high ground control.
It sure did, but at the very least, you still have this Kitsune Rush on this attack phase. I would love to see it be used around the corner. You can see Sabre try to go for a little bit of a pinch situation, but calls out Scaramouche extremely early on in that building on the right side. Maddie finds one up onto Vinsiri, however, keeping the support line a little bit weaker for Tormenting Tentacles. But in the meantime, of course, Wolf is going to be finding Rokuro at the exact same time. Now, with that being said, Deadeye is still online here. Cart is still progressing slowly with under 2 minutes left to go. We see Cherry on top trying to set up for a Deadeye, but no one's really to be found. And you can see, I think that's Hiccup on the high ground. The split of the Hanzo looking for an opening pick, especially on the people who are coming back from the spawn room after being taken down so early. Playback, actually, mind you, in the back, does get a little bit of that turret damage on top of them, on top of Cherry on top, getting the elimination on top of the fact. Now, Christian Rush is on the field here, and that's it. That's going to be a big one. Big Photon Barrier and a big D-Mech as well. I mean, it is a full control of the fight here for the side of the Tormenting Tentacles.
Yeah, able to open things up. Quite a few ultimates invested, but they do keep some in the back pocket here. But already, you know, you look at the top of the screen, they just got their added time for getting towards point C here. They're already going to be working at a deficit compared to HMS Sabre. And that's, you know, assuming that they're actually able to finish the map. Now, they do have some good tools to actually muscle their way through this. The Shatter plus Deadeye combination, definitely something that can be lethal and deadly here, as long as it's not caught by the shield of the Ramatra now that Scaramouche has swapped over.
Absolutely. We still have Pickup keeping things strong with the Dragon Strike, which I would love to see be used here. But first, we're going to start things off with a beautiful Tonic Shock. Response is the Shatter. Here comes a pin onto the Venture, and we stay alive with at least 20 HP. Somehow, some way, finds a Mega Pack at the same time, but we're losing members slowly. A lot of trade-offs back and forth. Wolf for Scaramouche. We also lose out on Strata. We lose out on Cherry. Sabre looking like they should be able to hold this defense, especially as Playback is now looking at the back line of this Kiriko, who does use Suzu, but I mean, that can only be, it's only so fruitful against the forces of a Venture player. Then Siri forced to use the Fade Away, and then we're going in for, honestly, a messiest regroup from the Tormenting Tentacles.
Yeah, they haven't fully regrouped yet. The Kiriko's player is still a ways out of the fight here, but they are, slowly backing up here, respecting the space that Sabre are trying to take right now. Playback, as you saw, going to go on a little bit of a flank, and now their next plan clearly going to hinge around Cherry and this Deadeye, trying to have it ready to go, potentially right on the objective just to create some space.
And it's going to work as well, but hold on. They're kind of going back and forth, trying to at least find a way to break open this defense with the Deadeye at some point. Playback is consistently being an issue in this backline, and oh my goodness, I mean, completely gets scouted out by Hiccup and the Storm Arrows. Cherry on top not even going to be able to find a chance to use his Deadeye. The Coalescence will be expended in the meantime, alongside the Nano and the Rallies of both support ults committed from Sabre, and for good reason. It helps find Wolf, it helps find Charming. Vinsiri finds two names under her belt, but it's not going to really last for too long. Strata also going down, and there's a forced reset here again against the Tormenting Tentacles.
Yeah, Tormenting Tentacles, I mean, they originally had that trade going in their favor, but the investment of the Coalescence and Kitsune when they were already down their Cassidy really just made it so that it became a much worse trade for them in the long run here. So now looking at pretty similar situations where this Deadeye still online, but HMS Sabre on the other side of it. They have the Dragon Strike as well as the Ramatra Annihilation. With only 20 seconds left, touching this cart is going to get very, very deadly.
Especially without Strata, who is so close to the photon barrier. Here comes the Annihilation as well, and the Sleep, and the Anti. It does get Suzu'd out, but we're still losing out on all of our players. 8 seconds left, and ladies and gentlemen, there's just no way to touch the rest of this objective here. It is a complete win for Sabre, and just to make sure, we send the Dragons up into the air as a firework of victory for HMS Sabre with a 3-0 win and 1 draw. Great series, extremely well done from Sabre as they finish things out strong.
They finished things out strong here, obviously. They were, had their moments where they were looking a little bit worse for wear. But, I mean, hey, listen, when you got D.Va getting bombs like this consistently, I mean, it can make the series a whole heck of a lot easier for you, as we saw throughout all of these maps, right? Constantly swapping over to the D.Va, even if it wasn't starting, and getting kills with those D.Va bombs, something you don't see all too often these days. It shows, HMS Sabre, they got a little bit of swagger on that D.Va. So, hey, listen, if it works for them, it works for them.
It sure does. And what works for us is that, as always, we're going to get an interview settled and ready here for everybody. So we're going to go to a very quick break, get our interviewee from HMS Sabre, and explain the Genji ban on Colosseo and many other inquiries that have been plaguing my mind for the past hour and 45 minutes. We'll be back after this 5-minute break. And we're back with our interview after a very, very intense 4-map series, of which concluded, or at least involved, a draw on Kings Row. We finally have our victors. We finally have our interview candidate of Hiccup, the DPS extraordinaire from the side of Sabre. Hiccup, how are you feeling after what seemed to be such a intense series for you guys?
Yeah, really, it was very interesting. The games went really well. We did have a few interesting moments. 100% on the Kings Row game. Like, all of it was very, 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 very intense for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, listen, intense is definitely how match day comes up here. So, kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit about some of the comps y'all were running because, you know, you were on, some more standard things, right? But overall, like, is the Hanzo specifically something you guys intended to incorporate, or is it just like a niche hero pick that you feel really comfortable on, so the team kind of built around you?
Actually, that was more of a spur of the moment because I've been practicing other heroes recently, and on the day we practiced in a bit of comp previously, and I had some really good results on Hanzo, so I was just like, why not? I'll play some Hanzo. And of course, he's my favorite hero as well. So that really helped. And yeah, everybody else was super cool with it. We played the first map brilliantly, in my opinion. And yeah, these guys, awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of, I do want to kind of call back to Coliseo, because this is something that me and Mega were kind of theory crafting a little bit here after seeing your supposed ban on a Genji, despite not really having seen it from either team in the previous map. So what was kind of the thinking behind the Genji ban?
The Genji ban, that was more of, okay, they've seen what my Hanzo can do. They're probably going to either play Tracer, because I was completely comfortable playing against a Sombra, a single Sombra. However, I did not expect them to pull out the bull pick.
Okay.
But that was basically our train of thought. Yeah.
Hey, listen, it makes sense there for you. But then, moving forward on the series, like you said, that draw on Kings Row, some interesting moments there. Were y'all just not expecting the Widowmaker? Or was it just sort of positioning issues, or maybe just not expecting things in general?
I think it was more positioning issues, like early on. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And something that's at least very, fixable in the meantime, especially against a Widowmaker that's being pocketed by a Mercy the entire time. So I definitely feel you on that front. In the meantime, I know it's been a very, very hectic, about almost 2 hours now since start. So I'll leave you one last question, that being, who would you like to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
That would be our captain, who wasn't present for most of the games today. That's Vormal. Absolutely astonishing guy. Put this entire team together from start to finish. Love him.
Love to hear that. And again, congratulations to you guys for the 3-0. Slight little hiccup with the draw, but it happens to the best of us. And we can't wait to see you guys in the rest of Season 16. Have a wonderful one.
All right. Thank you very much.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's all we have for today's Plat division for CGL. We have, I think, another match happening tonight. Surely it's a schedule. Surely my production wouldn't do me like that. Oh my god! Did me like that. Would never do that to me, of course. But I do think we have a couple more matches happening, at least in the next couple of days, if not for the rest of, again, into next week. So please keep tuning in to CGL 1 and 2, and possibly a third. We're very busy around these parts with this new season. Mega, any last words before we finally bow out?
No, I mean, you always just got to tune in to CGL to make sure you follow. If you want to go the extra mile, you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're getting your CGL tokens as well, of course. You got all that fun stuff going on. Listen, it's great. CGL, I think it's a big thumbs up.
Huge thumbs up from us. I cannot lie. But in the meantime, if we have a schedule screen or no? Okay, perfect. We're gonna go. We're going. It's been 2 hours. We'll see you guys later for some more CGO action, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Prod. Thank you, my observers, as always. Headrammer and Lottie, of course. Just always wonderful work from you guys. In the meantime, we'll see you guys later for more CGO Season 16 action. Have a good day.